I got a lot to say about Fallout 3, and I feel the best place to start would be my strange relationship with Fallout as a whole. See, I've been a fan for a few years now, and my interest peaked when I discovered a YouTube channel by the name of Oxhorn. Anyone who plays Fallout and uses YouTube probably knows who this guy is. If not, go ahead and go over there and give him a subscribe. Maybe our massive channel can give his low subscriber count a boost. His content is often very well planned out, very well edited, commentated, and is very thorough in the lore of Fallout. Despite having a good knowledge of Fallout's world based on watching his content, I have not been able to immerse myself in any of these games. At least until recently anyway. See, I'm big into shooters. I love my massive battles in Battlefield. I love my Uncharted's, my Red Dead Redemptions, and my Battlefront 2 type games. These are often my go-to because my ADHD brain likes it when things are fast-paced and constantly moving. This is why I've always had trouble getting into RPG type games, with a couple of exceptions. The whole idea of standing in front of a character as they awkwardly stare at you with a blank expression, having a conversation with them, has never been my idea of fun gameplay. But ever since Battlefield 5 came out looking like a turd full of corn, I've been in a game hole. A game hole, as I call it, is when gaming has been getting pretty boring for me because there aren't any new games coming out that are really piquing my interest. But the bright side of this, though, is that I find new opportunities to go back in time and play other games that I have not experienced before. And in my case, Fallout 3 popped in my head one night as I was sitting there twiddling my thumbs, and I'm so very glad that it did. I got up off my ass, went over to my computer, downloaded Game of the Year Edition, and it's one of the best games I've ever played. Also, you know, spoiler alert, just in case you have not played the game yourself and you want to, now's your chance to get the hell out of here. You've been warned. You may be asking yourself, Ian, why is this one of the best games you ever played? Well, sit down on your ass, Sonny, because I'm gonna tell you. As we all know, Fallout started out as a turn-based RPG game and remained that way all the way up until Bethesda's release of Fallout 3. This was where they took the franchise in a new direction and combined both the RPG elements and the shooter elements of old games and combined them into one new gameplay experience. This, for me, has a really enjoyable and interesting twist on the gameplay loop that makes every situation different than the last. The way characters around the world interact with you is highly dependent on how you build your character from the beginning, though this highly affects how you can progress and which perks you can choose as you level up. A few minutes in, you're going to be introduced to these special boys right here. You got strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. Strength affects your carry weight and the damage you do with melee, while perception mainly affects your awareness and how soon enemies can be marked on your compass so you don't get any creepy crawlies sneaking up on you. Endurance controls how much health you have, how well you can resist radiation, and how long you can hold your breath underwater. Charisma is pretty self-explanatory, generally just makes speech checks a lot easier, while intelligence gives you a lot more points to distribute as you level up, so you can boost up those skills a little easier so you can be more viable out in the wastes. Agility gives you more action points and VATS, which is basically a time-freezing targeting system that allows you to pick which different body parts you want to shoot at with various... So fucking close! Agility gives you more action points and VATS, which is basically a time-freezing targeting system that allows you to choose certain body parts you want to shoot at with various rates of success displayed. During this, you can freely take your hands off the game while your character attacks the targeted enemy in VATS with a much higher chance of a critical hit as opposed to freely aiming on your own. Luck makes your chances of hitting those criticals and VATS much more likely, which makes this a good special to invest in down the line. Now you see, I went with the instant big brain play and bumped up my intelligence and charisma from the get-go, while I left everything else relatively average. This was ultimately a good decision, as I would come to find out later, because of the many ways that this actually came to my benefit, which we'll get into more a little bit later. Your specials heavily coincide with the skills that you invest in over time, which is a really simple system to understand, really. Lockpicking just helps you pick more difficult locks. Science helps you hack more difficult terminals. The medicine skill improves your overall health and how much health you get back when using certain healing items. Any of the weapon skills improve how well you do when you use certain categories of certain weapons, etc., etc. Out of all these, though, the most important one is speech, because as I said before, this one is going to be very important when it comes to helping you pass certain speech checks that you'll come across throughout the game. These speech checks have allowed me to pull further information out of somebody that I thought might have been hiding something, as well as help me convince someone to pay larger sums of those sweet, sweet caps for a task that they've asked me to complete. There have also been times where this has opened up new possibilities when it comes to how I would like to complete a quest. The Superhuman Gambit is a great example of unlocking new avenues to take when it comes to convincing somebody to do your bidding. This dude offers me a job and pay. The pay is not good enough. Give me more. Now that you just forked over your entire family's life savings, let's talk. In this quest, you're tasked with putting an end to a personal war between two people, the Antagonizer and the Mechanist. If you want to make it really easy, you could just kill one or both if you really wanted to, but in my opinion, this is easily the most boring option in terms of how you can complete this quest. It is always a million times more interesting in attempting to push your luck when trying to convince someone to do as you suggest. When I searched out these people, I was able to convince the both of them to see the errors of their ways and ultimately stop the fighting. I saved lives, avoided conflict, got some goofy ass costumes, and got money in the bank! The quests in Fallout 3 are pretty diverse, and while some of them only offer you avenues to take that don't involve that much different decision making, there are others that require you to test the speech checks of your heart. Bethesda clearly wanted to test the player's morality, because there were multiple times throughout my playthrough where I had to stop and seriously consider what outcome of a quest would not only be best for me, but be best for others as well. This is where the good old karma system comes into play, which is basically designed for the sole purpose of making you feel really good about yourself for doing something good, or make you feel like a grade A scumbag for doing something that you probably shouldn't have. That and sending the occasional mercenary after you, as well as the occasional karma-based speech check, but I digress. Right near the start of the game, shortly after you get to Megaton, this fancy-looking dude offers to pay you to blow up the town using the nuke that Megaton is built around. He tells you that his employer over at Tenpenny Tower could do with it being gone because it's an eyesore from his penthouse. Now I'm thinking, that's pretty fucked up. How much are you paying? 500 caps? That's it?
I want more.
I, of course, couldn't justify the genocide of an entire community, so I disarmed the bomb. Then I got a little message from Bethesda saying, God loves you. You're a good person. I mean, I did get the town's only protector and sheriff killed in the process, but at least none of y'all got to deal with that other guy anymore. Don't you be giving me that look, Leo. I did you a favor. Don't you flip me off. Afterwards, I went to meet this Tenpenny guy. I wanted to talk to him, try to figure out why he'd want to decimate an entire community. But he wasn't feeling very talkative. He didn't give me that much helpful information. So I shot him in the back of the head, and Bethesda was like, God didn't see shit. There was one moment about halfway through the game where I had to find a way to free a group of children from Little Lamplight that had been captured by a group of slavers. So I'm talking to the dude at the front gate of this slaver compound, and he's given me multiple options to gain entry. Option 1, I remove this man's head from his body and fight my way into Paradise Falls to free the children. Option 2, I buy the children and then just send them back to Little Lamplight. Or option 3, I enslave these 4 people in a gesture of good faith. Just shoot your way in. You could steamroll right over these fools. I could, but that would be really easy and really boring. Then just spend the money on them. You should absolutely not buy them. These are literally children. You can't put a price on their lives. But what if I could free the people that I enslave? Now that is not a bad idea. Look, you can't guarantee that you can get the rest of them out afterwards. There's way too many slavers. Arkansas shot at you for no reason at all. Payback is long overdue. The other 3 have done nothing to you, and you even rescued Red from the mutants at the police station. Her community needs her. They'll pay you. By the end, my heart was hurted, but my wallet was full. These are just a few of the moral decisions that you're forced to make, and they stick with you. Just when you think you've forgotten about your past actions, the game finds a way to remind you and throw it back in your face. There was one time I was walking through Underworld, and I heard the dude on the radio talking shit on me. I was standing there listening to this, and a wave of guilt just washed over me. I'm not sure if this is set in stone to happen all the time, but when it does happen, it's very effective. But it seems that nothing is really set in stone in Fallout 3, and I feel like that's one of the game's biggest strengths. There are plenty of other titles that have random encounters that usually work well the first time, but the second time around, they usually lose their magic. Like Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2, in my mind, are some of the best examples of badly designed random encounters. Because while there are plenty of them that you can see as you're riding around, they're all set in stone to play out the exact same way. I played Undead Nightmare last summer, and there was one random encounter where a few guys were making a stand behind a barricade they'd made. No big deal, happened once, but as I was riding to another location, less than 3 minutes later, I encountered the exact same guys doing the exact same thing. Situations like this ultimately ruin the illusion that random encounters are truly random because they happen in the exact same static way that everyone else can experience. Wandering around the wasteland, I can't think of a single encounter that happened more than once or played out the exact same way as the last. The first one that comes to mind when I think about this sort of thing is one time when I came across an Enclave outpost. And all I gotta say is, shit hit the fan real damn quick. So I was attacked by the usual squad of Enclave, a couple of soldiers and an officer. And as I take one of these guys down, this zombified Yogi Bear looking ass sneaks up behind me, shortly accompanied by a couple of Protectrons as well as a giant bug. And all the while, everything is attacking me and each other. This is one of the best examples of how a simple encounter with one faction can be turned into a chaotic and frantic skirmish. Though you won't always be thrown into a situation when you're in combat. Sometimes you'll just be walking through the wasteland when all of a sudden some spaceship explodes overhead and crash lands in the distance. Or maybe sometimes you'll be walking along a highway and some scientist sets off an explosion that sends his body flying over the ledge. The hilarious part is there's plenty of shit here that Bethesda clearly did not intend on leaving in, because it honestly just leaves me with so many more questions. Like, why the hell does this Deathclaw follow me around the world and attack anybody that isn't me or my companion? What the hell is happening here? Why did this rad scorpion get yeeted across the wasteland? How'd my buddy James get in the game?
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
The world may never know.
Out in the wasteland, you never quite know what you're gonna see or get involved in. And that's the thing that adds value to Fallout 3. Because once the game is finished and you feel like you've done and seen everything, another playthrough might prove you wrong and show you things that you've never quite seen before. The seemingly limitless possibilities of situations that you could be thrust into also influences the pacing and theme of the game. And this is something that Fallout 3 differs from most games in this regard. When you buy a Resident Evil game, you're expecting survival horror. When you buy an Uncharted game, you're expecting a fast-paced action adventure. When you buy an open world game, you're expecting exploration. And Fallout 3 is all of these things. The dungeons throughout the game are a big highlight for me because I feel they best represent the change in atmosphere depending on which ones you go to. The Germantown police station is full of super mutants with assault rifles and things like that, so you might be tiptoeing around looting some tables or disarming a landmine or some shit when out of the blue you got 10 Shreks charging at you with a nail board trying to bonk you over the head. It's an early example of a good place to get that fast-paced action feel where you have to defend yourself against the onslaught of mutants that throw themselves at you. Now the metro systems are where things get a little spooky. These are pretty much your only way to navigate from city block to city block in the DC ruins, and most of them are incredibly dark. The pace slows way down as you slowly make your way through the metro tunnels. Most of the time you can only really see what your flashlight illuminates around you, and you can barely hear the sounds of feral ghouls in the darkness scuffling around. Every now and then you'll discover a location that is so unique from the others that it just fills you with this sense of awe. Like I remember going to the Nuka-Cola plant, and upon entry it looked like a standard office building. There wasn't really anything super exciting going on. But upon further exploration, as I went down the stairs to the lower levels, I was greeted by rooms that were flooded by this glowing blue liquid. I walked in like, damn, what the hell happened in here? Most places around the map generally have decent loot spread around that encourages you to press forward. So if you're not paying attention or if you don't have a high enough skill level in, say, science or lockpicking, then you're almost guaranteed to miss the good stuff, so you best be prepared. A large majority of locations are accompanied by a deep lore that you can learn about in a variety of different ways. If you're in a town, most of the time you can just walk up to a friendly NPC and talk to them, and it's more than likely that they'll have some information that they can give you about the place. Though there will be plenty of other places that don't have friendly NPCs, so if you're truly curious about what went down around you or what's going on around you, it's up to you to read the terminals, to read the notes, and to listen to any of the holotapes that you may find scattered around. This, paired with Bethesda's visual storytelling, brings out a curiosity in me that no video game has been able to accomplish. And I gotta be honest, I haven't read a damn thing since like 8th grade, so incentivizing me to sit at a terminal and read is a massive accomplishment in my opinion. Now speaking of stories, this game's story is absolutely flawless. I'm talking these washboard abs, flawless. I'm not gonna go into the full story here because ain't nobody got time for that! But if you wanna know the full story, I highly recommend you just watch it on Oxhorn's channel or go play it on your own. There are a few things I feel are worth being said about it though. For example, the first thing is that Fallout 3 is a great example of showing and not telling. From the beginning, the scale of the story starts off really small. Enclosed in an underground vault, you're forced out after your father, who happens to be Liam goddamn Neeson, has escaped. Once that vault door opens, you're greeted with a vast and open wasteland with infinite directions to explore. And as the story continues, the plot begins to expand from a simple find your dad who left to the store to get some milk and never returned to something far, far larger. The Brotherhood of Steel is introduced as this military of highly trained soldiers that all walk around in this badass looking suits of power armor that have diverted from their original goal of finding and collecting technology and using it for the betterment of mankind to protecting those who live in the capital wasteland from the super mutant hordes. That's a pretty noble objective. Setting aside your long-term personal interests for the protection of others is, in my opinion, a pretty solid move. A little later at Project Purity, the Enclave makes an appearance, and these guys are pretty much the villains of the story. They consider themselves to be the remnants of the United States government and view themselves as the last pure-blood living human beings in the entire world. Their objective is pretty understandable on the surface, as they want to cleanse the world of any mutated or irradiated beings, that being super mutants, ghouls, mutated animals, etc. But the major downside of this, though, is that this also includes every single human being that is not from the Enclave. In other words, mass genocide in the name of purity. And for some reason, that sounds very similar to me. One side wants to protect the people and use Project Purity to distribute clean drinking water to the masses, and the other wants to use it to assist them in wiping out anything that stands in their way. I love how the story escalated from a small story of a boy searching for his father to being thrust into a conflict over the lives of thousands of innocents that inhabit the Capital Wasteland. Really, the one negative thing that I have to say about this game is the ending, because quite frankly, it makes not a goddamn lick of sense. After gaining access to Little Lamplight and entering Vault 87, you meet a character by the name of Fox. Now, Fox is a super mutant, but he's different from the rest of them. He's highly intelligent and can speak as you and I can. He tells you that he can help you acquire the item that you've been sent for because he is immune to radiation and you are not. So he can become a companion if you choose to take him, and if he chooses to go with you as he did with me, he will accompany you to Project Purity to finish the main story. Now, this is where Bethesda chose to go with the little brain play. After clearing the Enclave out of Project Purity, someone has to enter the machine to start it up. But the problem is, the room will be flooded with deadly levels of radiation, and whomever inside is going to die. And if nothing is done, the whole entire building goes kaboom. So here I am standing here as the leader of the Brotherhood of Steel and I are currently discussing who is going to step into this machine and sacrifice their lives, and I see an option to send the guy who is literally immune to radiation into the machine, and she says, "That's a good-ass plan. You should ask him." I turn to Fox, and upon making the suggestion that eliminates the need for anybody to lose their lives, this guy looks me right in the eyeballs and says, "Sorry, bro, this is your destiny, not mine." Now, I'm over here like, that is easily the most retarded reaction to that request that he could have possibly given, especially since I just saved his ass not that long ago back in Vault 87. Now, I will give Bethesda just a teeny tiny bit of credit here, as they did kind of sort of fix this in the Broken Steel expansion, though it's still far from perfect. If you have this expansion installed, Fox will enter the purifier, thus saving Sarah Lyons, you, and everyone else in the building, but not without basically calling you a pussy first. Then to top it all off, Ron Perlman comes in at the end and doubles down because you didn't make the hero sacrifice by basically killing yourself and instead choosing the more logical option. Todd Howard has been quoted saying that Fallout 3 nearly had 200 endings in development at one point in time. And I'm gonna be honest, I really don't think that Bethesda planned on having that many endings in the actual game because, like, holy shit. But I have no idea how they ended up on this one. Out of the entire game, this is my only real gripe with the whole package. And as I said before, Broken Steel and the other expansions do kind of make up for it. Broken Steel allows you to continue playing once you've beaten the main story and continues the storyline of the Brotherhood of Steel going to war against the Enclave and how they're struggling to distribute the now clean and purified water to other settlements around the wasteland. The other expansions take you to other locations that aren't featured on the main map, as well as introduce new weapons, new gear, and other useful things that you can use once you go back to the main area where the main story takes place. Operation Anchorage puts you in a battle simulation that shows you what the Chinese invasion of Anchorage, Alaska may have been like in the Fallout universe, which was one of the root causes of the nuclear war and is a major part of pre-war American history. As I was playing through it, I could tell that the simulation was designed in a way to make you question how much of the event was true and how much was changed to fit American propaganda from the pre-war era. The Pit expansion is based in Pittsburgh in a massive slave camp where you quickly get caught up in a conflict between the slaves and their masters. This one gets a little spoopy at times and comes with some pretty taxing moral questions, like is it worth enslaving hundreds, possibly thousands of people if it means having a cure for radiation that could ultimately save people in the future? Here it's up to you to decide what kind of sacrifices should or should not be made for the greater good. Point Lookout takes you on a nice ocean cruise to a giant swampland that has been surprisingly untouched by nuclear war, although the world has just left this part of the United States behind, so it's just infested by feral ghouls and ancestral redneck families that are hell-bent on murdering you the first time they set eyes on you. It just sounds like good old Florida to me. I liked the story here, but it seems to lack any of that difficult decision making that I feel makes other DLCs a little bit more exciting. So it's still a great DLC, but it just doesn't seem to be as good as the other ones. Easily one of the most exciting and interesting ones in my opinion is Mothership Zeta, where you get kidnapped by aliens upon discovering a certain location. When you're on the mothership, you'll run into other people that have been kidnapped from Earth that all come from a multitude of different time periods, some of them from even hundreds of years before the nuclear war even happened. Bethesda even included a giant death ray on the mothership that you can fire at Detroit, just in case you don't like the city or have some sort of vendetta against the people that live there. All in all, I was extremely satisfied with my time playing Fallout 3, and I plan on coming back to it in the future so I can try to find different scenarios and see what else I can do differently. As I said at the start, I'm not really much of an RPG fan, but Fallout 3 has definitely inspired me to give the rest of them a go. I've already got New Vegas, Skyrim, Fallout 4 all installed on my computer, so I'm pretty much ready to jump into any of those at any time. So if there's anything that you guys would like to see, feel free to let me know in the comments section down below. Filming this and editing this has seriously got the good old dopamine receptors chugging along in my brain, so I would love to do another one of these. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I will catch you all later.
Not a big
Who that call my name? Come here, mama, get some sugar. Mwah! I love you, baby.